Hi everyone, thanks for joining. Those who have just joined, we are just allowing another minute for everybody to come in. We hear a lot of beeps. Thanks for all those who are showing on camera. I also see Jean-Paul Pian. Jean-Paul, bonjour. Thanks for joining. So maybe let me give a start. Just reminding everybody that we are going to record this session. Would be lovely if you can show on camera, but at least please be engaged. Please listen in, be present with reactions as soon as we move ahead, and please make sure that you ask your questions at the end. So, official welcoming everybody to this second award event at SPP Pharma. After the great success of last month, here we are to listen to other 3 engaging stories we awarded for the best practice sharing initiative we ran in 2024. Steelcase, Lonza and the QMC group. Congratulations to all of you. Please give all of them a big round of virtual applause. Using maybe the reactions if we can. Congratulations to you all. And thanks up front to Christina for walking us through the stories, and to Rachel for facilitating the Q&A. You can go to next slide. Christina, so last but not least, after the 3 stories you're going to hear from our 3 awarded suppliers, you will hear from Rob, my great presenter and co-host at SPP Pharma, a great opportunity to join our team and to collaborate with us, and the next appointment for the World Sustainable Procurement Day. So stay with us till the end of the session today. Christine, I think you might go to the next slide, but I'm not sure if you have any issues in changing slides, but I keep on talking. So I just want to remember what we did in the last couple of months. Last September, we relaunched the SPP Pharma chapter, and we sparked this best practice sharing initiative, extremely well received, as we had more than 75 stories shared by 70 companies. We had the difficult task to select just 6 best practices for the pitching opportunity. 3 presented last December the 10th, and 3 will present today. However, please stay tuned, as we are still revising all the great stories you shared. By the end of January, we will finalize the list of all those that will be published in the guide for the benefit, learning and inspiration of everyone, which is the ultimate goal of this initiative. So thanks again to everyone for your engagement and your participation to this event today. Before I let the presenters talking, let me finally remind how we came to these awarded names. First, we wanted to recognize initiatives coming from companies of different size are different. So we want to acknowledge that sustainability is not just for big companies doing big bang initiatives, but we could also appreciate something maybe less fantastic or fabulous to listen in, but still very, very important, especially if coming from a smaller company. Again, for the benefit of inspiring everyone and giving each one of us the opportunity to say, I want to try this as well. So that's why today you're going to hear from two big companies as Steelcase and Lonza, and the QMC group, who is maybe a smaller supplier compared to the other two. Also, we selected different type of cases to have a sense of the variety of programs that can be put in place within this sustainable sourcing umbrella. So let's give again a big round of applause to everyone for being here, but especially to our presenters today, because you really touched us by reading your story. Thank you. Let's the presenters, and the floor is yours, Christina, to introduce them one by one.
First of all, can you see the correct slide? The cases and the people.
I
Yes.
personally
Okay.
only see the slide one.
Rachel, you can see the
And
slide?
maybe it's just me.
I can see the slides that shows all of the speakers.
Okay, thank you very
Okay,
much.
maybe it's just me then. Perfect.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, we can now
Great.
focus on the reason we're all here today. We will be showcasing best practices presented by three different organizations, as Maria said. We have reserved some time at the end of the session for Q&A, so please post any questions in the chat and we will address them at the end. First, we have a case study from Steelcase presented by Hall and Julia. This case study will discuss how they're aiming to achieve net zero by transforming products, operations, and transportation. Next, we have Sila from Lonza that will discuss a great example of supplier sustainability risk and supplier decarbonization maturity framework. And finally, Tom from the QMC group will present a great case study for electric vehicles and decarbonizing the employee commute to work. Let's begin with the first case study presented by Hall and Julia. The floor is yours. If you can share your slides.
Yes, thank you so much for the introduction. Okay, I will take over. Are you seeing this yet?
Yeah.
All
Great.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So hello, everyone. My name is Julia Loffredo. I'm part of the net zero strategy team at Steelcase. My colleague, Holly Richter, is also here. She's the global account manager that works with Pfizer. So if you aren't familiar with Steelcase, we're a global leader in office, education, and healthcare, furniture, design, and manufacturing. And today I'm going to share a little bit about our first net zero transition plan as part of our commitment to the well-being of people on the planet. So a little context maybe, at Steelcase, as designers and makers, we're in a moment of transformation for our business and the planet. And so to meet the growing challenges of the climate crisis, we knew we had to advance our climate commitments. So to place us in time for this discussion, and it was the summer of 2024, last summer, we announced our net zero target and published our first net zero transition plan. So first, I just want to quickly share what we mean by net zero. We set a science-based net zero target, so that means we're committed to cutting our full scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions by over 90% by 2050, and then to neutralizing any residual emissions that might remain at that point with permanent removal and storage. And before we set this net zero long-term target, we had set our near-term science-based targets in 2020. And so we're on track to achieve those and to reduce our emissions by 50% in our own operations by 2030. We also have a supplier engagement target. It's not shown here on this graph of absolute emissions reductions, but that is to engage 80% of our suppliers by emissions to set their own science-based targets. So all of that work has already sort of started us on the path to net zero. And so to transparently communicate our plan to get to net zero, we knew that best practice was to develop a transition plan to be published with the announcement of our net zero target. So we published The Power of Possibility, our first net zero transition plan. So if you're not familiar with a transition plan, the purpose of these plans is to demonstrate how a business will transform its operating model to stay relevant and successful in a net zero future. And it translates like this really long-term, high-level commitment into near-term actionable strategy and actions that sort of move us along the path to net zero. And they're a framework for accountability. They're meant to be updated every 3 to 5 years. So again, those like near-term chunks of time on the path to net zero. And it also, having a transition plan aligns you with current best practices for voluntary reporting like CDP, and also with upcoming mandatory disclosure requirements that are requiring transition plans like the EU's CSRD and CSDDD. So in developing our transition plan, we closely followed best practice guidance provided by leading groups such as CDP, the TCFD, the UK's Transition Plan Task Force, etc. And they all this guidance more or less aligns on the contents that are essential to a robust and credible transition plan, which include near and long-term science-based targets, a discussion of the high-level strategy and planned near-term actions to decarbonize the business, which is really the bulk of the plan, and then several key enabling elements such as stakeholder engagement, governance structure, financial planning, and risk and opportunity management. And of course, this all is underpinned by scope 1, 2, and 3 accounting with some level of verification. So now I just want to briefly give you an idea of the framework that we use in our transition plan. We wanted this plan to be accessible to a general audience. That's something that sort of we decided early on. So instead of using the scope language and the greenhouse gas protocol categories, we grouped our emissions into these 3 areas of our business: products, operations, and transportation. So products, you can see, make up the largest share of our carbon footprint, including emissions from our purchased goods and services, but also those from the use and end-of-life treatment of our products. Our emissions from operations include our scope 1 and 2 emissions, but also waste generated in operations and our leased assets, our showrooms, those sorts of things. And finally, transportation includes those emissions generated from transportation and distribution, employee commuting, and business travel. And so this is one more slide to just share about the framework of our transition plan. So the plan and really our actual project work is divided into these 5 focus areas. And first, we have ongoing work to reduce emissions now. So we're focused on those achieving those near-term targets. So through energy efficiency, on-site solar, reducing the embodied carbon in our products. We also have projects to help set us up to reduce emissions in the future, like most importantly, engaging our suppliers to set their own science-based targets. Several projects are focused on the early stages of transforming the business to align with a net zero future, such as really expanding our circular economy offerings like remanufacturing. And then helping communities thrive means ensuring our transition is just and equitable. And finally, we're committed to respecting nature because we know that climate and nature are inextricable. And so we're conducting our first nature assessment to lay the groundwork for future work. So our transition plan took about 7 months to develop with the help of at least 10 teams around the company. So these are just a few key moments in the process. Perhaps most importantly, this process involved several meetings with most members of our senior leadership team, including our CEO, who all sit on a committee we call the Net Zero Oversight Committee. Though this group has been providing strategic guidance and oversight for our science-based targets since 2020 as the Carbon Oversight Committee. We just sort of rebranded them recently, but this group is really essential. And with this group, we decided to announce the target, the net zero target with the transition plan. This was really important. And we were aiming for early June during our annual industry trade show. And by December, we began to draft that transition plan. We leveraged existing guidance that I spoke to. We looked at other companies' examples, certainly, so that was really helpful, and interviewed stakeholders around the company, such as product development and operations and sales and supply management, among many others. And of course, none of these were brand new conversations or first conversations because we have been working on this for years and have a sort of long-standing track record on sustainability. But our first draft was ready by January, after which our ESG communications team took it over and began several review cycles with different internal stakeholders and senior leaders. And at this point, we also leveraged an external partner to help bring that design vision to life, because the comms team hadn't been able to plan for this at the beginning of the fiscal year. So those resources were essential to achieving the sort of tight timeline here. Okay, so yes, by June 2024, we were successful in announcing our target and publishing that first transition plan. So I'll wrap up with just a few key takeaways. Key to our success, and I expect to our continued success in implementing the plan, was the engagement of our senior leaders across the business. So they each have assigned accountability for different aspects of the plan. And that's really, really fundamental, I think. Second, given that we have a centralized and not a dispersed sustainability team structure at Steelcase, working with different teams across the company was really critical to developing a plan that can be implemented and that people are motivated to implement because they helped develop it. And third, the communication resources were critical. So using both our internal team of dedicated ESG communications colleagues and an external vendor to publish the transition plan on this tight timeline. Our top recommendations, I would say, are to, of course, collaborate, make sure you're developing the plan collaboratively to build that buy-in, to align with best practices, to make sure you're meeting, that you're set up for success when it comes to voluntary and mandatory reporting, to look to other companies' transition plans for inspiration. There's a lot of variety in transition plans today, and it was helpful to understand where we thought we could fall in that spectrum, I would say, given our resources. And then to embrace really that you can't and won't have all the answers today for net zero. It's hard to look just a few years ahead, let alone to 2050, but the plan it is meant to demonstrate that you're on the right path. So that's all I have. Thanks so much. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. There are a couple of questions. We can address them at the end. If that's okay with you, I will just welcome Sila. Sila, can you hear us for a second case study? Okay, that's great.
Share my screen. Do you see my screen?
Yep, you can see. Thank you.
All right. Good. Okay. So, hi everybody. My name is Sila. I work for Lonza. I am leading the responsible sourcing program, and I am part of the procurement excellence department. Today, I will go through an extract of a bigger document, which is called Responsible Supplier Toolkit. This is a publicly available document that you can find in our Lonza website under the Responsible Sourcing subpage. And it basically explains the whole responsible sourcing program, what are the targets we have, the expectation for our suppliers, and gives also guidance to them, free resources, and answers typical questions that we receive from our suppliers. So it's more or less a guide for them. Before I go into the frameworks, just a bit of context here on the sustainability commitments of Lonza. The company has selected 7 sustainable development goals that we try to add value and support. Each of them is sponsored by one of the executive committee members, and each of them has a global champion that is driving, implementing the program. We have yearly targets for each of them, and all connect to part of our bonus. Since 2022, every employee in the company, our bonus is connected and linked to these 7 SDGs and the yearly targets we have. We are also getting audited on this performance by an external partner to sign off and make sure we get a part of our bonus. Now, our responsible sourcing program falls under the responsible consumption and production SDG. It started back in 2022. We have 2 main initiatives in the program. One is the supplier sustainability, which is basically the ESG due diligence of our suppliers, and the other one is the supplier decarbonization, which is basically our scope 3 management. We have targets by 2028 for both of them. On the sustainability, we aim to cover 90% of our total procurement spend coming from suppliers that have a sustainability evaluation, and I will explain what this is. And for the decarbonization, we have a science-based target, which is a supplier engagement target. By 2028, 67% of our emissions to come from suppliers that they themselves have set science-based targets. Apart from the SBTI, there is another very important initiative that Lonza is a member since 2.5 years now. This is called Together for Sustainability. We can also post the link in the chat. This has over 50 companies, and we all follow the same responsible sourcing principles. We all use the same tools, and we all invite our suppliers on behalf of this initiative. So we see and share the results of our suppliers without, of course, knowing which company invited which supplier. And finally, as you see at the bottom, this is the overall commitment, the statement for SDG 12, which you see is really focused on sourcing from responsible suppliers and engaging with external companies and peers like we do today to collaborate and exchange and share knowledge. For both these initiatives, we have developed frameworks in order, one, to help our procurement organizations understand how we evaluate our suppliers, and also explain to our suppliers how we assign different performance levels to them, what we expect them to accomplish by when, and what are specific actions and training materials that they should look into for each level. So this is the supplier sustainability one, which is focusing on 3 levels of risk: high, medium, and low, and 5 levels of performance. As you see in the dotted box, this is our expectation for our suppliers. We use 2 main tools to evaluate. One is the EcoVadis, and depending on the score, we assign them to a different performance level. And the other one is a TFS audit. So the initiative I mentioned before, TFS, has an audit protocol, which we can also post a link online. And depending on the findings we have during the on-site audit, we assign a performance level. Then the supplier sees us, they understand if they get a score of 20, for instance, in EcoVadis, they are insufficient. Then we give them 12 months to work on corrective action plan and do a reassessment. And of course, we from the responsible sourcing team support them with one-on-one discussions, providing them webinars and help. Another very important tool for us and our suppliers is the TFS Academy. Again, the initiative I mentioned, TFS, has an academy with over 400 courses in multiple languages and different topics from ethics, social, scope 3, and this is free of charge for the suppliers of all the members of the initiative. So depending on which area of EcoVadis or which area of the audit we have lower performance, lower scores, we suggest them specific courses from the TFS Academy. And as you see, for suppliers that are committed and above, then we accept basically their score for 3 years, and that is to not put too much burden on the supplier. So we mainly focus in the lower performance levels. Similarly, for the decarbonization, we have a mirrored framework. Here, we do not work on risk, but we work on the maturity. We have low, medium, and high maturity. Again, 5 performance levels. But as you see, the box of the expectations is a bit shorter. We want suppliers by 2028 to be advanced and above, meaning they have either science-based targets through the SBTi initiative, or they have made a statement publicly that they have scope 1 and 2, which are aligned with Paris Agreement. Similarly, if they are in the insufficient, we focus more on that. We want to help them, first of all, calculate scope 1, 2, and 3 in order to be able to prepare for the science-based target, make the commitment, and finally set them. Here, since last year, we started engaging with a company called Emitwise. This is a tool that we offer for free to a large number of our suppliers that are in the insufficient and partial mode. So it's free of charge, sponsored by Lonza, and it's a scope 1, 2, and 3 calculator. They also get expertise and support from this company to prepare for setting science-based targets. And again, there is a lot of materials in the academy and also in the SBTi website that we refer our suppliers to. Here, a little bit more explanation, because this is a question we receive a lot from our suppliers. In order for a supplier to be an advanced, we highly recommend to go through the SBTi initiative. It's also easier for us because they will do all the checks by SBTi, but of course it's not mandatory. If a supplier chooses to have scope 1 and 2 targets aligned with science, then we offer them to check for us. They complete the SBTi checklist, as we call it, then we receive it, we confirm their targets meet the SBTi criteria, and then we can assign them to the advanced level. Again, our preferred option would be for the supplier to go to through the SBTi. And for the committed, here there are 2 ways. Again, either they have the commitment letter, so we can find them with the committed status in the SBTi website, or they can sign a contract clause where we have embedded this SBTi requirement, which for us is also a commitment that they will set it by 2028. And finally, we also want to lead by example. So we track our own performance against the frameworks we have developed. Back in 2022, when we started the responsible sourcing program, our overall EcoVadis score was 58, and our sustainable procurement SAP score was 50. 2 years later, we moved up to the advanced level. We are overall at 72, and our sustainable procurement score is at 90 out of 100 in the EcoVadis scale. And similarly for the decarbonization, already from 2018, the company had started reporting on greenhouse gas emissions. And we had targets, but they were not aligned with science. In 2023, we sent a commitment letter to SBTi. We were marked as committed. And finally, we got the validation in 2024, and we are approved now. And our scope 3 target is a supplier engagement target. And we were also very happy in 2024 to receive 2 awards for our responsible sourcing program. So by doing that, we also want to show to our suppliers that we are all trying to improve, and we want to also work on ourselves and lead by example. With that, I close. What we will also post on the chat is a link to a very big digital event we did in March 2024. All the recordings are available on our website, where we go through a lot of detail through this for these frameworks, and we explain EcoVadis and the Emitwise tool in detail. So feel free to have a look. You will definitely get more detail about our program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sheila, for sharing your insights. It's very inspiring to learn about the sustainability efforts of renowned organizations like Lonza, especially on supplier engagement. Now I would like to invite Tom from the QMC group to present their case study. Tom, could you share your
Thank you.
screen?
Yes, thank you. Can you see my picture or my screen okay?
No, all good. Your slides.
Excellent. All right, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Tom House. I'm with a company that offers print, and I'm sure that we are a much smaller company than the others you've heard from as well. We're at the beginning of our journey, so what I'm going to show you is probably a much more singular effort. We feel good about beginning our journey and getting our employees engaged as we go along. The effort that we chose to embark on is really putting electric vehicle supply equipment on our parking lot so our employees could participate in moving forward, as well as we would be prepared to deal with new equipment that we might buy, delivery vehicles and sales vehicles, to help us move forward. We're at the beginning of our journey of counting our carbon emissions, and this being the first year. And so we recognized, I learned a great deal about scope 1, 2, and 3, and we recognized that our employees' commutes actually represent a number that we have to report on. I live in New York State. Many of my employees travel a great distance. Some of our most exceptional employees travel as much as an hour in a gas-powered vehicle to come to work every day, with about 250 days a year of travel time for them. So our goal was to try to reduce that while offering them some benefits to this travel expense. Gas is reasonably priced in our area, but still represents a significant cost to travel. In our research, we discovered that several of our local opportunities for helping us move forward, where our power company, National Grid, owned by Avangrid, offered an incentive to help pay for the infrastructure that we would need to place these chargers on our floor. And as well, there is another incentive program from NYSERDA. NYSERDA is a state program that would allow us to offset some of the cost of our digital charging stations. And then finally, there is also some state tax incentives that help us offset some of the cost that we do need to put in. We had 3 major players helping us, and our cost ourselves were limited to just a few $1,000s to put in 8 plugs in our parking lot. We have 55 employees, so 8 plugs represents the foreseeable future for anybody that wants to come in and charge. One of the key attributes about putting this in, besides reducing greenhouse gas emissions, is the very visible attribute of our company being able to illustrate to our employees our commitment to net zero and their participation in that. It also helps them with cost. I can illustrate the cost savings on the next slide. The Ford F-150 happens to be the most popular vehicle in our country, and coincidentally is one of my employees' vehicle of choice. When it drives, it emits 3.72 on average kilograms of CO2 per 10 kilometers driven. So the math would generally pan out for a gentleman that's driving 50 miles or 80 kilometers in each direction, 250 days a year. He's emitting about 14,880 kilograms of CO2 for his commute. That's a single employee. if I allow him to charge for free at our location, he sees a lot of incentive for him to move to electric. It also reduces our greenhouse gas emission. And as a side benefit, I have employees that feel more connected to our business and happier to work at our company. And that is a very big benefit for our company, which has highly skilled people in a field where there are few people learning our skills in the future. The other thing I wanted to mention was that the best power is at night. Not all power is equal. Generally speaking, I'm sure you guys all know this already, but wind generation at night, hydro and nuclear are all the same. So if we use less power at night, this power is extremely inexpensive. I'm taking advantage of that, and the off-peak times of 4 cents a kilowatt hour. Where I live, we pay 14 cents peak and 4 cents off-peak to generate a tremendous amount of savings for my employee that I would say is around $250 a month for the gentleman with the F-150 Lightning. And for people that have Teslas, it's probably somewhat less, but a similar ratio. So that math that I've illustrated to our employees, this is a rough illustration I've given to our employees, is we pay $3 a gallon for gas, which I think is fairly on the low side. And the expense for the gas vehicle would be about $3,200. The expense for the electric vehicle would be $500 if he paid for all of it. And of course, if we offer that for free, then he makes a savings of no less than $3,261, not including maintenance and other ancillary issues. Of course, he gets side benefits of having power at home for emergency use and several other big benefits that I think our guys get excited about, especially with our weather. Currently, we have a lot of snow coming. So although my presentation is pretty simplistic, we're very excited about it because we pick up some greenhouse gas reduction with very limited impact to our process. Our employees feel more connected to our company and are less likely to leave. And we're prepared for the next step, which is likely to be EV delivery vehicles, including our large delivery trucks. I'm hoping that those become more available in the near future. And then our customers, I think, find that we're not only better for the environment, but that our employees are happier and more focused on making our products more in keeping with our customers' needs. Being ahead of our laws helps stabilize our production costs, so we don't have to have big expenses in the near future. New York State's very progressive, and they are currently, they have a lot of laws on the docket that will be restricting carbon emissions beyond even our goals, I think, but in specific areas. So transportation is one that'll put us ahead of the game. So I think that's the end of my presentation, and I apologize for being very brief. We're a smallish company that I think has limited resources. I'm one of the partners in the company and also the most sustainably forward person. And so as a singular effort, it's my task to motivate my employees towards the goals that our customers share. And I'm excited about sustainability as one of those things.
Brief but to the point, Tom. Thank you very much. I believe you have shared a simple but very effective best practice that can potentially be replicated by many other organizations, especially if we consider the math there for the employee savings and the engagement of the employee. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now I think we can move to the Q&A. Rachel, I hand it over to you while I will share my screen.
Sounds good. Thank you, Christina. Brilliant presentations from all three companies. I always love when we can have a real diversity of the size of organizations that we have sharing on this call. So there's something that everyone can take inspiration from, regardless of their starting point. So that's brilliant. But it's just keeping an eye on the chat. We had some questions in from Steelcase. Unfortunately, Julia was only able to stay for the first 30 minutes. So any questions in the chat for Steelcase, we will forward on to Julia. So you can continue to put them in if you have questions for Steelcase. And then I'm
working on that for you now. I've been copying and pasting and sending them to Julia for Steelcase.
Fantastic.
So don't worry.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you.
Of course.
And then I think the other questions we had have been answered as we go along. So please put your questions in the chat or put your hand up if you have a question. And just whilst you're doing that, I did have a question to get us started for Lonza. I was interested in the supplier engagement model that you discussed, and I was wondering if you could touch a little upon either the incentives or the penalties that you use to make sure suppliers are progressing across that framework. Sila.
Great, thanks. We do not have penalties at the moment. We did not encounter a case where we had to consider to take a penalty for a supplier. We have found the path to the supplier sustainability is easier. More suppliers are aware of EcoVadis, and they're more comfortable also with auditing, because it has been many years and many of their customers have been asking for this. So on the supplier sustainability in the last 3 years, we have progressed way more compared to the decarbonization. This is a bit more difficult because many of the suppliers do not have the resources or the tools to even do the groundwork, which is scope 1, 2, and 3 calculations. And that's why here we decided to collaborate with a company and offer free of charge support to our suppliers, because EcoVadis, every supplier pays a fee depending on their size and where they are. But for Emit-wise, we decided to offer this free of charge. We have piloted the tool with a number of suppliers last year, and this year we are going to offer it in hundreds of suppliers. Still, we encounter issues where the suppliers do not have experts in their teams to run the show. So this is another obstacle. We cannot do much for that, but so far in the pilot, the response was very positive on having a free tool, and quite a big number of suppliers also mentioned that they would continue to work on the tool under their own sponsoring, which is great. So that would be the incentive for the supplier, and that's why we decided to offer them this free service. But yeah, we're still a bit behind on the decarbonization compared to the sustainability. No penalties so far, perhaps in the future, but not for now.
Okay. And have you considered anything around preferential payment terms or longer contract lengths? Is still something that you're
not yet.
Okay.
But this is something we would like to look into, and we have started also benchmarking with other companies, but not for now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sila.
You're welcome.
Did anyone else have any questions for Lonza or QMC? Whilst we have the speakers on the line with us.
I'm going to jump in, if I may, and ask Tom a question about the story. So we often read about kind of employees being attracted or retained by company investment in sustainability. And Tom, you mentioned a bit of both. You kind of meant the employees, and then you mentioned the customers. Where did the balance lie in kind of what was your rationale for doing it at first? Was it that kind of really focused on employees, or was it the customer push, or where did you get that balance? What was the overall case for bringing it forward? You're on mute, Tom.
Thank you. Thanks for asking that. I believe that our employees are a reflection of our company and that everything stems from their efforts. So I have a strong focus on making our employees happy employees with a keen focus on what our customers' needs are. To that end, these two things were very much in keeping. So I have, there were times when our gas prices were as much as $4, and I have we have a lot of space. And so I have employees that drive a long distance, and that was a serious concern of mine. So I had been eyeing some means for mitigating their expense. Of course, the easiest way would be just to pay for their fuel, but that's not in keeping with some of our larger goals. And so this opportunity, when Pfizer came out and said we needed to be part of this program to aim for net zero, it was a great opportunity for us to leverage our external needs and our internal needs at the same time. So honestly, I would say it started with keeping our employees happy and serving their needs, but it evolved into specifically an EV focus with the addition of this net zero goal that we've signed on for.
Right. No, it's a great case study that kind of underpins a lot of kind of data points you hear, but you've brought it to reality. So no, thank you, Tom. Really helpful.
Thank you.
To have been the base of your thinking about the net zero goals.
Any final questions for the speakers we have on the line, or for Steelcase that we can redirect to Julia? If nothing else, perhaps we can wrap up slightly ahead of time.
Yep.
Rob and Maria.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah. So listen, thank you to the speakers. Really great case studies. Again, let's not forget that these 3 case studies and the 3 previous ones came out of, I think it was 60, 70, 80 case studies we got submitted. So these were the best of the best. And thank you all for taking the time to make these submissions for the benefit of everybody. We're all trying to learn together here. We're all trying to share experiences here so we can move together faster with the global challenges we've got. We're now over halfway through the decade, 72 months to the end of 2030. When we're supposed to have met all of those UN SDGs that were referred to earlier, and to really start tackling decarbonisation if we're going to avoid the worst impacts of climate change. And importantly, as I sit in a pharma company, important that we consider the impact on human health of climate change as well. So thanks all for the focus. What's next? So what's next is World Sustainable Procurement Day. This is now, I think, the 3rd year of running, may even be the 4th, time flies, but 2 days. It's time March 20th, 21st. It's been 24 at 4th. Thank you, Melissa. Wow. And so this runs for 24, possibly even longer hours these days. A really great set of speakers. It's clearly intended to run over a 24-hour period because we have global time zones. So calls stretching to suit the Japan markets right the way through to California and maybe even Hawaii at the far west. So great thing to sign up for. Always some fantastic sessions on there. I know there's been oversubscription in terms of people proposing events in there, and hopefully SPP Pharma may find a slot somewhere in there as well. So yeah, come and join us to hear what we've got to say there. But yeah, get registered, pick up all the information and put the date in your diary. Maybe even do some things like, really advertise it around your teams as well. Get teams engaged. It's a great place to, get a meeting room booked out so people can drop in and see particular talks and events during the day as well. Ideas like that can really help get teams engaged for that positive attitude, Tom, that you're driving towards. So that's all I'll say on that. If there's any questions, just ping them quickly. I've not seen anybody. But so the SPP Pharma chapter, again, thank you to Rachel, to Maria, to Christina, and to Melissa in the background as well, if she's still in the background, for supporting all of this drive. And thank you to all of those who are joining and contributing. SPP Pharma clearly is focused on the pharmaceutical sector, pharma and life sciences. If you work in that, not just buying direct materials, if you're buying indirects as well, then really do get engaged, meet peers, have the opportunity to engage with others and share ideas and experiences, to help us all move faster. It's still an area we're all learning in, but hopefully together we can move faster. So get the SPP Pharma chapter. There's a LinkedIn page, and we are looking for support and in ideas and inspirations on what actually matters to you, what would really help you move forward faster, what would help your team move forward faster. Share those ideas. That may inspire a presentation. You don't have to join it, but we need the ideas. We need to know what the challenges are to help you solve them all. And of course, that goes back to the guide as well. So please look at those. Again, that might give you more insights and information to help your own teams move together quicker. But reach out to us if you're interested. Just help us shape what 2025 might look like, what your challenges this year, and we'll see what we can help address together. Remembering this is by us, for us, by members, by procurement, for procurement as well. So looking forward to contributions. And I think we're probably moving to the last slide. It's finishing up. Yeah, so again, the SPP event is our next event. Really welcome ideas of future events. I think there's a number of topics that float around, but really welcome people's suggestions either through the LinkedIn group, by email, through other channels as well. Join the chapter on LinkedIn. We've now got 117 members, I think, on there of like-minded people all looking to be more sustainable in our procurement activity. And as SPP overall, we're looking to build that community of 1 million. That's a huge, hairy goal, but we will absolutely all be driving towards it. We need to do more in procurement as procurement professionals that really factor sustainability into everything we buy, remembering our purchasing power is our superpower, and that's really where we can all make a difference in our day-to-day roles. So thank you all again for the time. Great to see everybody, and see you all at World Sustainable Procurement Day. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for joining.